Welcome back. I am Rain, and I am joined by the Basilisk, and we're going to be commentating Clever Girls in red versus Yuna in blue. So Clever Girls have brought the Typhoon, Scythe, Hurricane, Sunesis, Kestrel, and since everyone missed it before, they banned the Ferox, Abaddon, and Apocalypse. The Basilisk, do you want to introduce the Unat team?
So the Unat have brought a Prophecy at 0, but they've brought a Rifter, an Algos, a Megathron, and Execra at varying ranges. So the latter four of those have come in at 20 kilometers, I believe, and the Prophecy's right on the beacon.
Yep, and all of Clever Girls have warped in at 50 from the beacon, so it looks like if they rush in, or they're going to use that Prophecy, you being Unat, is going to be using that Prophecy as hard to tackle, as Ithaca mentioned earlier when we did not have audio. So the match is kicking off with Clever Girls kiting away. We see the drones going out, and as predicted, that Prophecy going in to try and tackle, along with that Rifter from the Unat team. So the primary for Clever Girls is that Algos, as well as they're hitting that Prophecy as well. The Executor having no issues keeping either of them alive. It doesn't really look like... Oh, it does look like Unat is actually primarying that Scythe, which is attempting to cut away, being piloted by our own Brett Thomas of the Even 2 staff.
And the Unat Rifter now of Aruna is taking some damage into armor.
Yeah,
so shouldn't be too much of an issue for the Executor to hold him up, as he seems to be catching some reps.
Yeah, and the Rifter actually almost turned... It looks like he turned around to fly back towards that Executor, so they have to be... The tackle from the Unat team has to be very careful rushing in, because it looks like they're going to be leaving their teammate behind, especially that Megathron. It doesn't look like that Megathron's really going in at all. He's also a massive battleship and moves pretty slowly. The Kestrel, piloted by Tyrion Heki of Clever Girls, taking damage, but Brett Thomas keeping him pretty much alive, always catching him in low shields and repping him back to full. He has yet to bleed any armor.
The Prophecy of Tossiter on the Unat team now still taking some damage. He's burning into the middle of the Clever Girls team, and his armor is slowly going down to about 50%. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to hold.
Yeah, and Clever Girls has to be a little bit careful. I know the Typhoon, Tasman, the Typhoon is sitting at over 100 kilometers away from the center of the arena, so if he's not too careful, he could easily boundary without realizing it. Prophecy taking a ton more damage on the Unat side. It looks like the Executor may not be able to keep him alive for much longer.
Yeah, the Unat team is all quite spread out, whereas the Clever Girls team are all quite bunched up together, so the Executor may not be in optimal range for the reps on the Prophecy, as he is going down into about 30% armor now.
Yeah, and it looks like they're trying to... Clever Girls is splitting damage, probably putting some pressure on that Rifter, creating some split reps then from the Executor, who's trying to keep both the Prophecy and potentially that Rifter alive.
And this Prophecy is still slowly going down, approaching 20% armor now. Doesn't seem to be holding from the Executor, and there doesn't seem to be much trading back from the Clever Girls. There doesn't seem to be putting much damage on anything on the Clever Girls side, although, as I say, the Sunesis of Leonard Umbriel is taking some significant damage as he goes down into very low shield.
Yeah, and it looks like the Scythe not able to catch him at all as he's hitting hull and completely gone off the field. That was a pretty solid trade by Yuna. I'm not sure what they did there to bait Clever Girls, but they were not able to catch and save that Sunesis.
I think the Prophecy has just managed to get on top of it and tackle him down with something, and they've been able to finally apply some DPS, obviously with the Megathron warping in at range. Probably not the highest DPS at the start of the match, but as he's been slowly making his way across to get in range, and DPS has been gradually rising, and it's finally broken him.
Yeah, and I did mention earlier how that Megathron was moving very slowly, but now it looks like he is aiming directly for, or looks like he's trying to go toe-to-toe with that Typhoon. They're pretty close to each other, kind of keeping on their own respective sides. The teams are intermingled, but they're all kind of still sticking pretty close together. That Scythe is doing perfectly fine, only the Hurricane taking some damage from the Clever Girls side, and this Prophecy now bleeding whole.
He is still just about holding though, so it may be possible that this Sunesis kill has actually bought them enough time to survive and keep this Prophecy alive.
Yeah, for sure. And I know the Scythe sitting there, we haven't mentioned this before but today, but the Scythe is actually buffer shield fit, so that when they have drones on the field, armor rep drones, or not armor rep, shield rep drones, obviously those have to be on the Scythe to help keep him alive because he does not have his own active rep. Kestrel and the Hurricane taking damage from the Clever Girl side. This Prophecy is still holding on, still repping himself back up.
He's slowly bleeding whole though, so it is possible that Clever Girls will be able to make a trade and trade that battlecruiser for the Sunesis.
Yeah, and
As I say that though, the Typhoon, did he boundary violate? He just
Yeah, he
instantly
found.
died.
Yeah, so I had mentioned that earlier that the Typhoon has to actually be very careful watching him. Be very careful himself, otherwise he's actually, yeah, he did boundary. So he had to be careful, and of course he definitely boundaried.
That is
Completely.
a catastrophic error for the Typhoon pilot right there. As I think they
Yeah.
had a reasonable chance of coming back into this match and killing that Prophecy, but obviously without the Typhoon, I think they haven't got nearly enough DPS. As now the Kestrel goes down, it's just the Hurricane left.
Yeah, and the Hurricane's already bleeding armor. The Scythe not able. Nope, Scythe almost caught him there, but he's definitely not able to stay alive. That was, I would say, it looks like Taston and the Typhoon. I believe that's the team captain as well, lost his team that match. The Prophecy is now, even though he was bleeding half into a hole, his armor is now catching. No way can that Hurricane solo destroy him. Hurricane caught a little bit of reps, but too little, too late, and all that's left now in the field is Brett Thomas and the Scythe for Clever Girls.
And I get the impression he's not going to be able to 1v5 and win this match on his own.
No, I know with these ships the fits are predetermined, but players can choose the drones, but I have yet to see any sort of logistic ship pick DPS drones to try and win themselves the game. He's actually begging in local reps to let me live, ? To hopefully try and survive the last 4 minutes of this match and not die. This does not look like UNOT has any mercy for the logistics pilot. Oh, I'm almost sad that the Typhoon pilot boundaried. I thought like Clever Girls would be able to claw this back, but instead they weren't able, and we can see the Prophecy regenerating all of his shield as the Scythe actually repped him because there's not much more the Scythe can really do.
Yeah, that was shaping up to be quite a close couple of minutes of that match before the Typhoon died.
Yeah,
I think it was entirely possible for the Prophecy to go down there, and that would have spiced it up quite a lot, as that would have put Clever Girls into the lead there by 1 point. Or
Yep.
2 points, rather.
And now with UNOT winning the match, we'll send it back to Ithaca in the studio.
Buy him a Ram's beer. We are back, and the boundary in the first match claims its first victim there with the Typhoon of Taston going well outside that boundary, being exploded, and Elise Randolph, our tournament director, already offering him a place in Pandemic Legion for that unfortunate snafu there, resulting in the vast explosion of his ship. So let's just take a quick look at the picks and bans for that previous match. I know you guys didn't get to hear our wonderful commentary of what actually we were talking about before. So if we can pull up the Clever Girls versus UNOT bans, you'll see here that the Clever Girls choosing to ban Ferrex Abaddon and Apocalypse, with UNOT banning Augur, Roke, and Hyperion. And what we've kind of ended up with is two kind of traditional comps from last year and the season before that have been maybe altered a little bit because of the meta changes. So in the UNOT side, for example, you have the classic armor, Rifter, Algos, Executor, heavy tackle in that Prophecy, and then the kiting Megatron, a little bit different, probably wanted the Hyperion, but of course Clever Girls recognizing that, banning that out early on, forcing them to kite away. However, that did work for them. It worked pretty well. Clever Girls was planning to kite away with that Typhoon. Unfortunately, they kited too hard and exploded. So that is a terrible shame for Clever Girls, who are actually one of our returning teams. So for those of you who don't know, this is the minor league. We have two returning teams from last season, and that is the Clever Girls and the Charlatans. Clever Girls taking one loss already, unfortunately. And we are joined by 6 new teams who came in from the EVNT Cup, which was 2 weeks ago. And they are Templars, who won it over Nameless, and UNOT, See Ya Kids, Diametrically Opposed, and Only Points. So that is the 8 teams that we have for you today. In no particular order. The matches that we have today will go through the next 4 weeks of the season, each team playing each other team for points. If you win, you get 3 points, and in this case, if you get a dominating victory, if you kill every single ship without losing one of your own, you get that extra, vastly important domination point. It's 4 points for that win instead, so you get a little bit extra. Now, we are joined in the studio by a team of people here who are going to be gracing your ears today with their lovely voices. We have Bayart J in the back. We have Mr. Elise Randolph running the show. We have Equalizer 11. He is the man who speaks in my ear. If I suddenly look confused, that's because he's telling me I've done something horribly wrong. We have Rain Chocolate, whose voice you've already heard. We're joined by the wonderful Sutonia, CSM member and fitting guru, who can talk to us all about the fittings, as he was the one that created a lot of these fittings tournament. And we are joined by tournament commentator newcomer the Basilisk, who will be doing some of our matches today as well. So, Rain, are you still there? I see your mic is muted.
Yep.
So, what did you think of that match? Like, where did it go wrong for the Clever Girls there?
So I thought that when UNOT managed to catch their Sunesis, I mean, obviously that was detrimental to them. I wasn't quite sure how they managed to let that happen either. I don't know if it was one of those bait things where, they're shooting at the Kestrel and then they all switch to the Sunesis just to kill it. But obviously, the big mistake was Taston and the Typhoon not really paying attention. I had mentioned that earlier of, they have to be careful. They're staying at 100 kilometers. They could easily fly out of the arena. And sure enough, he flies out of the arena, and from there, it just, snowballed into failure for Clever Girls.
Yeah, I mean, that prophecy for the UNOT team seemed to be breaking for a while, but then he just kind of caught reps and started to pull through. He was about, 80% structure? I mean, what happened there for the UNOT team? Like, what did they do? What did they change that allowed Clever Girls to, or allowed UNOT to survive the damage coming in from that cruise missile Typhoon?
So with the prophecy, it was catching armor reps, but it was still bleeding whole. So they just had to be very careful and meticulous about repping him, keeping him alive, keeping him out of the enemy's optimal, etc. And obviously, I don't know if how well Equalizers managed to capture everyone on the field, but you could tell that UNOT was pushing Clever Girls towards the edge of the arena, and you could tell that their positioning was pretty solid. So while that prophecy had been taking damage all game, and it was eventually bleeding down to 50% whole, the Executor was able to keep reps on him, not get baited by trying to rep the destroyer or the the frigate. Because that's usually what happens when people split damage, is they try to put pressure on that logistics pilot to pull reps away from that prophecy who needs it to put then on some of these smaller ships who can get insta-blapped off the field.
Yeah, and I mean, Sutonia, you will be happy that the first match of the entire season, the Kestrel's already been picked. I don't know how much of that you managed to see since you joined sort of a little bit through that match. Can you just tell us a little bit how you changed the fitting for the Kestrel this season?
So the Kestrel brings a target painter, which is probably the main reason why people pick it, and it doesn't count as your E-War choice. It isn't as strong as the Vigil for target painting, and the Vigil has 2 target painters, and it also has ship roll bonuses towards target painters. But the Kestrel's a pretty good middle ground between long range tackle, while not compromising your E-War pick, and I think that's why it's really popular.
So one of the things that you mentioned there is the E-War pick, and for anyone who's new to the EVNT style of tournaments, the way we do it is you're allowed 1 E-War ship and 1 logistics ship pick. If you were to, for example, pick the Vigil, which is an E-War ship, then you could not later on pick the Blackbird or the Scorpion or any other that we count as E-War, things like the Arbitrator and other ships such as that. The Bellicose is another one. So perhaps Sutonia is maybe picking the Vigil as the first pick in your pick ban phase. Is that a giveaway that you want to do something maybe with the Typhoon with its cruise, or is the Kestrel maybe a safer choice to kind of obfuscate what you're going for in the end?
I think the Kestrel's quite safe anyway. It's generally quite a good ship. It does have the web. A target painter, I think, is very useful, even if you don't bring out, a ship like the Typhoon that relies a bit more on it.
Yeah, exactly. So it was, unfortunately, it was not to be for Clever Girls. They weren't clever enough, and the Boundary got the best of them, dropping them to 1 dominating loss so far for the season. So it's time to move on to our next match, which is going to be between another one of our returning teams, the Charlatans, and another one of our newcomers, the See Ya Kids. So let's just pull the pick and bans up for that one now on the stream. Our commentators for that one are going to be Sutonia and Rain. So I'm going to pull in Rain. Why don't you just run us through what the See Ya Kids have picked here?
So the See Ya Kids have picked the Condor, the Sunesis, the Osprey, the Hurricane, and the Tempest, while banning out the Megatron, the Typhoon, and the Harbinger. And I believe...
What do you make of the Charlatans?
The Charlatans have brought the Thalia, which is a new logistics frigate that we've added. We added in the cup, and they're still around. It seems some teams are still picking them. They brought a Dragoon, Blackbird, Prophecy, and Dominix. So a pretty interesting setup. It is quite interesting that the Seer Kids, after they saw that Blackbird pick, they immediately picked up the Hurricane and the Tempest. The Hurricane does have that information link, and having both a Mimitar battlecruiser and battleship, they're going to try and make the Mimitar jammer on that Blackbird difficult to decide where it's going to go. And of course, the Condor, Sunesis, and Osprey all have gravimetric sensors too. So the Amar and Galanti jammer on the Blackbird is not going to be too useful in this match.
So Rain, you started to talk a little bit there. Why don't you just continue with that?
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna mention the Osprey. Obviously, is a bit slower than the Scythe that we saw in the last match. But the one thing with the Osprey is, even though it's slower, it has its active rep, which makes it, some people would say, like, better than the Scythe, because with the Scythe, you're always reliant upon your enemy, or not your enemy, your teammates having either rep bots or, obviously, over time, your shield regenerates. So with this Osprey, it's probably going to be, I want to say, like, a little more survivable, I would assume, than the Scythe that we saw in that last match.
Yeah, the Osprey, of course, fit with its XL ASB, is able to burst tank quite a while. Of course, once it runs out of charges, that XL ASB starts to become a massive cap drain and an already cap unstable ship. So it is very critical that you get out of danger, or just get, whatever is shooting you has to die before you run out of those charges and drop too fast. The Scythe, on the other hand, relies more on just being able to get out of there and kite away. Perhaps something that we'll see in match later on this season. Not by the Clever Girls, that we've already established. Kiting, not their thing. So I'm seeing the team has been moved in, so we won't be long. We are back on schedule. We got a little bit behind because we had a minor technical glitch. Someone forgot to plug the speakers in. But we fixed that, and we are good to go. But before we go to that match, Tony, I want to talk to you a little bit about the introduction of the Tech 2 Logistics Frigates. Can you just tell us why you introduced those and what they are?
Well, we wanted to change up the meta a little, and when I was looking at ships that didn't see much use at all, when we were trying to just change the fittings for the Event Cup and for this season, and the logistics frigates, every single one of them didn't get flown at all, aside from the Burst, which was picked 3 times in the minor league. So no teams are really considering them as viable options, so they seem like a good place to upgrade into. And I also thought it would help make the banning meta a bit more interesting too if they became decent picks, because the blue side used to be all about just banning logistic cruisers and trying to prevent the red side from getting like a logi cruiser, or they have to ban other stuff, which is what we kind of saw before. But now you can kind of just ban other stuff and then pick a logistics frigate, which I think has changed the banning meta a lot more. Like, we're not seeing many logistic cruiser bans, especially in this, for example. There's none that were banned at all.
So we're talking a little bit about the picks and the bans, which differ a little bit from the way the Alliance Tournament, for example, does their picks and bans. Now, Mr. Bayart J is in the TeamSpeak server. Are you there, Mr. Bayart J?
I am indeed.
He is the creator and originator of this system that we use here in the Plus 10 Gaming Event minor league mouthful of a league system. Can you tell me why or just explain to us about the pick ban system? How does it work, and why you've done that?
Okay, so we've got a lovely little tool that's been created by Vitor, one of the managers at Eventi, and basically we wanted to do, rather than have the traditional Evenline tournament format where you pre-pick your setup, we wanted teams to have to respond to each other much with the in the way that other MOBAs teams have to pick characters against each other, because we thought that's kind of a fun mechanic, and having to kind of guess what ships the other guy's going to bring kind of brings an exciting element, and having to respond to that as you pick along, I think creates an interesting dynamic that's different from the kind of the setups that we used to for most team tournaments. So yeah, you get to ban 2 ships, you pick 3, you ban 1, and you pick 2. And so, unlike most sort of MOBAs or PvP kind of arena games. The characters or ships in this case are quite different classes, and like the frigate is very different to a battleship. So we kind of have a specific order to how you have to pick your ships basically. So I'm bumbling quite a lot.
That's all right. We got some time. I think, in fact, we are ready to go to the next match. So perhaps we can come back and have a little bit more information about how and why the system came about later on. But for now, it is time to go to the match. So I'm going to hand you over to the See Ya Kids versus the Charlatans, and your commentators, Sutonia and Rain.
Go Soup.